Shalom. Pastor Hakim back at you with this truth, giving all praises to Yahweh Bashimau Shabbat Shemakakodash. And I'm going to entitle this video Philip, Alexander, and Antiochus Epiphanes, and other topics. Anyway, I was, going browsing through this internet, through YouTube and Wikipedia and Google, trying to find a subject. And I may just go into other subjects outside of the title of this video. But what I did was yesterday, I wanted to go through First Maccabees chapter 1, which in the latter part of First Maccabees, the first chapter, it tells you about this demon, the wicked root, Antiochus Epiphanes. So I wanted to focus on that. And I said, let me just start from the first verse and let me just pull out some names. So the first verse, of course, is, and it happened after that, Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, which maps will tell you, I got to double check that, but Chittim is Cyprus today, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. So I took the word Philip, Macedonia, just to get some history. Hey, this guy had a lot of wives. Well, there's a bust of Philip, and you can see his nose broken off. I don't know if he had Jake features. Bust of Philip II of Macedonia from the Hellenistic period. All right, it said predecessor, Amnitas the fourth was a titular king of Greek kingdom of Macedonia in 379 BC and member of the Argead dynasty. Successor, Alexander the Greek, after his father was assassinated. Hegemon of the Hellenic League. Now the word hegemon is really the leader. You have a term called hegemon, like America. They'll mention America and the word hegemony, meaning America thinks, it says in Daniel 7, they were more stout than their fellows, meaning they're over everybody. So that's who he was. He was also known as, he received the title of Commander-in-Chief. Okay, it says wives. You see a whole list of women that he dealt with. I don't know if he was dealing with two women at a time, or he got tired of the one woman. based upon this information, he wasn't a Mo. His son was. So you have the history here. Let me go right here. It's the rise of Macedon, its conquest and political consolidation of most of classic Greece during his reign. See, in the ancient world, just like in today's time, the modern world, you had to make you had to make agreements with people. You had to make pacts, compacts, with sit downs, in order to come together as a empire. I mean, that happened back then, and it's damn sure happening right now. Okay, his reign was achieved by his reformation of the army. So what is an army all about? If you set up an army is to protect the nation, and it's also to take down other nations and make that nation that you take down a part of your nation, which becomes an empire. That's how Rome came into power. This is why we teach, and it's also scriptural, of course, first and foremost. This is why we teach that America, the U.S., is modern day Rome all over again. The people the ones that sit up as presidents and leaders were, for the most part, the emperors back there in the past. It says the establishment of the Macedonian phalanx, and that's the phalanx right there. That's a picture of the phalanx. It says the Macedonian phalanx was an infantry formation developed by Philip II. And they showed you that in the movie 300. They had the shields up that protected their head, that protected the most of their body, if not all of their body. And they had their spears up, and they would march in. And so when the enemy at that time was, the Persians, what you can say, the Persians, the Medo-Persians. And they showed you that in the movie. All you got to do is watch the movie. And they were shooting. They would shoot at the Greek, the Greek or the Hellenist army. And after they would stop, they would come. They would put the long spears down, and they would charge. Because remember, they didn't have guns back there. They had the lances, they had staffs, and they had bow and arrows. So this guy, we don't know who this guy is, but I believe he's definitely been here in the modern world as a military leader, or he's here now. He's here among us. We don't know if Alexander the Greek, as we call him, as I call him, we call him, is here among us. I do believe that Nero is back, and most likely Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian. You know me, I go into that Roman history and the Greek history because it's part of the scriptures. You read in the scriptures when it makes reference to Rome and the Greeks, you got to know some of this history so you can get a picture in your mind. So it says, the Macedonian phalanx was an infantry formation developed by Philip II, which is Philip of Macedonia, and used by his son Alexander the Great to conquer the Achaemenid Empire, which is the Persians, defeat armies of other kingdoms. Phalanx, hard for me to say, remain dominant on battlefields throughout the Hellenic period. And I'm not going to read the rest of it, but So so now all of us saw the movie the 300, right? And they showed that formation. And another reason why I'm going through this is because you had, I remember, I don't know who said that. A couple of them said that as far as the so-called Black consciousness comedic, the debates. One, I forget who said it, but and it was said more than once that, oh, there were no such thing as Israelites. Israelites never existed. Well, guess what? The history tells you that Alexander took down the Israelites. When you go into the history, when you dig up or you look up the excuse me, the Moabite stone or the Meshe Stele, that was a stone where the king, what was it, King Mesha, called himself taking down his god Chemosh, taking down the Israelites, and he mentions the name of Yahweh. He mentions King David. So, you can't get around that. Israelites as a people did exist, and it was Philip, actually it was his son, that took down the Israelites. It says, let me read on. So it goes on to say that proved critical in securing victories on the battlefield, his extensive use of siege engines. I already know that's how you take down a wall. That's how you breach a city. That's called a siege engine. That's what took place during the time of what was the man's name? Salahuddin, during the time of the Crusaders, which a lot of them were Jakes. I would say all of them were Jakes at that time. They made a movie called The Kingdom of Heaven, or Kingdom of Heaven. And the elder of GMS Chicago, Malcolm, he did a video and he put a picture up there from the movie, a still from the movie. So a siege engine is when you have a military force that may have catapults, arrows that are set on fire, and you hit the city hard. You hit the city hard, and then you break the wall down. You use what the hell you call that? A battering ram, let's say. The ancient world, I don't know what they called it, but they would batter down the walls, and they would go in, and then you had women, children. So you had some men that had to protect the women and children. You had some men to fight. But if this was an overwhelming army, it would totally take the city. And that's exactly what everything old is new again. The more things change, the more things stay the same. This battle, this invasion of the Ukraine by the Russians, it looks just like the ancient world. They compared it to World War II. They compared it to World War II, World War I, and the ancient world. That's what's called a ground battle. And I said in the previous video that convoy of which is nothing but a siege engine, and their job is to seize the capital, which is Kiev or Kiev. So it's the same thing. These are the same people coming back, and you can see the spirit. If you look at recent images of or video of Putin, you can see that the Most High put a spirit on him to do that, man. Man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own way? Because the Most High is pushing them prophecies. 2022, the year of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai turning up, and things then got turned up. It's March. We're what? 2 months in. You had January, February, and you got March. You got 2 months in, not even 3 months in. And this is a major, everything on the news, this thing with the Russians going into taking over the Ukraine to build back the Assembly of Nations in Jeremiah 50. This is just all prophecy. And Esau's trying to have meetings. You ain't gonna have enough meetings to bring things back to normal. And if you notice, the COVID-19 is not in the news no more. It's like it never happened. Now they're saying, oh, you don't got to wear masks no more. So now we're saying, wait a minute, this is a plan. They had this plan going. They pushed that to the side. Now it's phase 2, which is this war. So things are moving quick. Like I said, the next major thing is the MOTB, which they're going to get the majority of the planet, the people on the planet Earth to take that. It says he made use of the siege engines, and that's exactly what the Romans did when they besieged Jerusalem. That's in Luke 19, Luke 21. It says, and his utilization of effective diplomacy and marriage alliances. If you were a king, a high-ranking officer or king in any time in history, you wanted to get in good with the other king because you might have perceived that that kingdom is more powerful and your kingdom has a greater army. You want to get on his good side. So what do? You take one of your daughters, and you may have the daughter put your daughter out there for the enemy, the potential enemy son or the king himself to marry the daughter. So that they were family now. The super elite, they marry among each other, and they'll bring certain people into the fold, man. See, back then, marriage wasn't based on a woman saw a guy, oh, he's so cute, I want to get to know him. Or the guy talked to her and, and get to know her, and then they get married. No, it was based, that's why when you go back into the law, it was a father back in the history that gave the daughter to another man, whether she liked it or not. So guess what? There was a lot of rape going on because you were a procession. So you said, well, I don't like him. He's ugly. Oh, he too old. Look, Joseph, the father, the biological father of our Lord, had to be, it doesn't tell you his age, but he was way older than Mary. Mary had, most experts say she was 13, most say she was 14. He could have been in his 30s or his 40s. So there's a lot. See, this is why so many Christians are leaving the Christian church, because they don't go into the scriptures like we go into it. They don't go back to the history. It said after defeating the Greek city of states of Athens, which that was the Medes, the Persians, which were Elam, and Thebes, at the battle of, what is that? Cheronia. That's a battle. The battle of I hope I'm saying it right. Cheronia was fought in 338 BC near the city of Cheronia and Boeotia, between the alliances of Greek city-states, and they showed you that in the movie 300, that you had you had kings of different regions of city states. So you didn't have no one king. King Leonidas was one of the kings. So before they went to war, they had to have counsel with the other kings. By Macedonia, under Philip II, which is Alexander's father, an alliance of some of the other Greek city-states led by Athens and Thebes. I hope I'm saying that right. Thebes or Thebes. The battle was the culmination of Philip's final campaign. So what they did was, to establish an empire, they had to take down what was going on. Just turn on CNN, turn on the news, and what is Russia doing to what is it? The Ukraine. That's called an old-fashioned takeover. And the U.S. doesn't want to get involved because, you know what, that'll lead to a full-scale Third World War, War of Armageddon. And these Edomites, and these guys, these experts, these generals, they read the scriptures, man. And there was this one general on CNN, and he quoted the book Sun Tzu, The Art of War, which that whole book is about war, the strategy of war. So anyway, I'm not going to read. You know what I'm going to do? Let me do this. Okay, I didn't know this was in here. Okay, it says here, biblical references. Okay, let's see what this is all about. Biblical references. Philip is mentioned in the opening verse of the Deuterocanonical first book of Moses. So guess what? If you got a copy of the Apocrypha, you either got the red book or the black book. The red book, I believe that was printed, and it's printed as we talk right now. That the Apocryphas are being printed. The red book and the black book. The more popular one is the red book. I believe that's Cambridge. I can go look. Cambridge, and the other one, the black book, is printed in what's the other famous college, university? You got Cambridge, and you got I always forget that, Cambridge and Oxford. Oxford, I believe, is the black one. Now, why would they be printing? And like I said, right now, Apocryphas are being printed right now as we speak. Why are they being printed? And why doesn't Jake in the Hood have an Apocrypha? And why doesn't these churches, why doesn't the Baptist have the Apocrypha? When does the pastor say, well, let's open up the Apocrypha. Let's go to second Ezra's 6 or 9 or 11 or 15, because their master, the so-called white boy, didn't teach him that. So Esau, the reason why they're printing these Apocryphas, because you got Edomites that have a high level of education. They study the Apocrypha. They study the scriptures. And just recently, the new presidents that came in, I believe it was Trump, they read from the Apocrypha. And they never read, and before that, somebody else, some Edomite died or whatever, some senator or whatever, and they read, but years ago, they only read from the Bible. And they'll say, we're going to the Book of Wisdom. So nobody knows who the Book of Wisdom is. We know what the Book of Wisdom is. It's the Wisdom of Solomon, showing you that, oh, that's not accepted text. Okay, let me just look a little bit more. Well, that's all you need. Okay, that's fictional portrayals. It was a film, Alexander the Greek, and I saw that film. The brothers that were in my camp, if it was bad weather, raining real heavy, we would watch film. So I showed them that film. Yep. And I believe that was what's his name? Burton, Richard Burton. And that was a movie. It was pretty good, man. It's a pretty good movie. But the biblical reference is what? In the first book of Maccabees. Okay, so now let's come over here, come back over here. So it says, and I'll try to read some of this. It said it, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and the Medes. So there's a biblical reference to the Persians and the Medes. In Daniel 8, it actually speaks about the king of Greca. And like I said, these Christians don't know this. If you go into Daniel 8, if you ask them, what did the Lord mean? When I say the Lord, I'm talking about whom you call Jesus. What did he mean when he spoke about the abomination of desolation spoken of in Daniel? Ask any Christian that. They're not going to have an answer unless they're trained in a theological cemetery. That he reigned in his stead the first over Greece. So it was his father first, and then he came on the scene. Let me do this. Let me go to Alexander. And there's no way I can cover this whole chapter inside of one sit down. It'll take me hours because you got to pick out certain, we're learning the history right now, getting into the history. Bring this back up. And I didn't set nothing up. Sometimes you set up precepts and so forth, but I just went with the Spirit. Yeah, the video I did last night, I was showing some scenes of a video that Bishop Nathaniel put up. Nathaniel, we remember him as. He was Nathaniel III, and he was showing the St. Jude or whatever the Jude project or whatever, St. Jude project, on YouTube. Or Jude, you got to go to it. I forget it, but it has Jude in it. It's Jude project, Jude 3 project, and they were talking about how the Israelites were taking over. Even this guy Eric Mason, you can see it in his face. He wasn't looking happy. He said that the thousands are leaving the church, the black church. Yeah, because Jake is finding out that the black church is nothing but the white church, which is white supremacy, and you're supposed to know your order. And this is why so many Jakes, especially men of a certain age, mostly, and some of the women, they're coming into us because you're not going to get this information that I'm giving to you right now. I'm going into the history. I'm showing you that the book, the Apocrypha, is not a fairy tale, a book of fairy tales, man. That the people mentioned in the Apocrypha are actual people, man. So now we're at Alexander. All right. Oh, and Alexander he kissed Israel's ass because he saw in a dream, he saw the high priest with the white garment, and saw the priest behind him, and he saw him in a dream, and it was that priest. I forget his name. I did a video on it. I went in on that particular video. I gave you names, dates, and all that, and gave you references to the Josephus. And he sat down and he showed Alexander the scriptures, and he said, okay, you see right here in Daniel 8, that's you. You see right here in well, Daniel 8 was one reference. Then you had Daniel, was it Daniel 7? Then you had Daniel 2, and he showed him. He said, "Look, that's you. That's you right there." So he knew why, because his father Philip wanted to take over that region, but he got put to death. He was assassinated on a campaign to take down another region of that world, at that part of the world, and he died. And Alexander jumped up in there. Why? Because the prophecy went on Alexander to fill that slot. This is the Most High's movie. It says Alexander was the son of Philip II and Olympias, daughter of King Neoptolemus of Epirus. From age 13 to 16, he was taught by the Greek philosopher Aristotle. Aristotle was a Jake. So what made Greece great? Jake. The whole Hellenistic belief system was by Jake. Zeus and the gods came out of the mind of Jake. The movie Troy, that was in the theaters a couple of years back, that never happened. That came out of the mind of Homer, one of the 7 sages. Now we went down, if you go down to Columbia campus in Harlem, Columbia University, on one side, you have the 7 sages, and they show you they give you the names of the 7 sages, and one of the sages was, I believe Aristotle was one, Homer was another. I mean, if you look up the 7 sages, you get it, and they were all Jakes. Now, Homer had a big nose, a Negro nose. You got the big noses. Greek philosopher Aristotle, who inspired his interest in philosophy, medicine, science, investigation. As a teenager, Alexander became known for his exploits on the battlefield. Why? Because the Most High was with him. I'm not going to read no more. Let me try this. Why is Alexander called the Great? He is known as the Great both for his military genius and his diplomatic skills in handling the various populaces of the regions he conquered. Now, the way how he dealt with the Israelites, he didn't tax them. He didn't tax them. He bowed down. He actually bowed down to the high priest. I forget his name. You can put it in the description box. If you don't know it, research it. I'm not going to research it. And he gave him gifts. He was kissing all them other nations. You were hard on them. He said, I'm not gonna be hard on Israel. So when we speak about that Alexander, that demon, well, he wasn't a demon to us. We were living good. Now, when the 4 generals came on the scene, and you had Antiochus that came out of Seleucus dynasty, he was the demon. This is also in Daniel 11 chapter. That whole chapter, you got idiots that will read Daniel 11 chapter. And they'll say, that's talking about the Antichrist. That's talking about the Great Tribulation. No, that's history. That was the 6 the 6 Syrian wars. Go into the history of the 6 Syrian wars, and that's Daniel, the 11th chapter. Okay? Was Philip of Macedonia greater than Alexander? Philip prepared the ground assembly, the resources, conceived the strategic vision, and launched the first modern, tactically sophisticated. These tactics in the military now, they're from the ancient world, but instead of using lances and spears, or they have a rocket launcher, a shoulder carry rocket launcher, they call it javelin. What is a javelin? A javelin is a spear. They have a thing called tomahawk missiles. It's a tactically sophisticated and strategically capable army in Western military history, making the latter victories of his son Alexander possible. In all these things, Philip exceeded Alexander's triumph. So the mastermind of war was through his father. His father was a warrior, and his son took over. But he was more in philosophic as well. Read Daniel, the 8th chapter. It speaks about the king of Greca. So now let's come back over here. Let's see what we can do with this chapter here. First over king of Greece, and made many wars and won many strongholds and slew the kings of the earth. And went through the end of the earth, meaning the known earth, and took spoils of many nations. When we take this place down, we're going to be taxing the people. And so much that the earth was quiet before him, meaning nobody rose up against him. Whereupon he was exalted and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. What's the difference between going into slavery and tribute to pay tribute? They taxed them. That's what the word means, to tax them. That's what the Romans did. They said, look, we'll let you keep your religion, you keep your land, you have your cattle, but we're going to tax you, whether it was 5%, 10%, and that's what made the Roman Empire even greater. And the people that were conquered were pretty much happy because they said, oh, we can keep our religion, we can do this, as long as we give them a tax. Like I said, these Christians, the reason why they're leaving Christianity, the so-called black men mostly, which are Israelites, and some of the women, is because the church is the same old stuff. You're going to have a pastor, he's going to be quoting scriptures. Their lips, and with their lips, they do honor me, but their heart is far from it, And my commandments of them is taught by the precept of men. I'm botching it a little bit, but you know what I mean. So that the preacher and the pastor's talking his mess, and it's going over the people's head. And then you ask, well, how was the sermon today? How was Pastor Reynolds today? I don't know what he said, but he sure preached good. So when a Christian that goes to a regular church rolls up on the Israelite, they get stomped on a spiritual aspect. You got to know some history, man. 5th verse. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. And he died at the age of 32. His campaign started at 20. He took down those nations through his father's tactics, military tactics. And he got sick and died. Why? Because the Most High said, I'm going to have him live for a certain amount of time. I'm going to have him take over regions of other kingdoms, and then I'm going to put him to death. And then I'm going to have his generals under him take over, and those generals, the kingdom was split into four. It says, and after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants. You got Seleucus, you got Ptolemy, you got Cassandra, and you got Lysimaeus. And then there was a fourth in there, Antigonus, which the Apostle Paul did a video and he mentioned it in that one of the videos. He's kind of in there. So, but those are the main four. It says, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth. So they were raised up as little boys together. So they were friends, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, from 20 to 32. And his servants bear rule, everyone in his place, which was four. It tells you that the four in Daniel the 7th chapter, the four wings, was it? Matter of fact, let me go to that. I don't want to botch it up. Daniel 7 and okay. Daniel 7 verse 6. After this I beheld and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The 4 represents those generals that came up with him. After he died, the kingdom was split into 4 separate kingdoms. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it after Alexander died. They took the kingdom over, the empire over. Now these wacky-tacky Christians, they'll read this, the 7th verse, and they'll say, oh, that's talking about the Antichrist. That's the Antichrist. But all these previous kingdoms, which was in the form of animals, they'll tell you that's the Babylonians, that's the Medo-Persians, that's the Greeks. And this, the 7th verse, is the Antichrist. There's a guy with a Brooks Brothers suit on. When you shave his head, he got 666 on it. These Christians don't know, man. They don't know. That's why they're losing. That's why a lot of these Edomites, they're following. Hey, a lot of Edomites, especially these scholars, look, they're watching our videos, man. They're watching everything that we do. And they're learning from us. Anyway, let me come back over here. It says, okay. Ninth verse. And what I'll do is I'll close it in a little bit. It says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. See, when Esau came into power, that's when evils came. Why? Because he's the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan. And this is how we know that the Edomites are the devil, the spirit, which was on Cain in Genesis 4. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus, or Antiochus, depending on how you want to pronounce it, the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Now, the one that was a hostage of Rome, that was Antiochus Epiphanes. And the Romans, which at that time was the people of Japhet. You know what I'm gonna do? Let me do this. Let me do this here. Let me do this here. Just want to get a little history and do it this way. Come on, man. Okay, let me come to Google. Okay. Okay, let me do it this way. Epiphanes. Epiphanes. Hostage to Rome. Let's see what comes up. Okay, it says Antiochus, or Antiochus, was the third son of Antiochus III, the Great, after his father's defeat by the Romans, which were the Japhetic people. They weren't Edomites. He served, which is Antiochus Epiphanes, he served as hostage for his father in Rome, 189 to 175 BC. He learned to admire Roman institutions and policies. And that's also in Daniel 11. What happened to Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes? According to the scroll of Antiochus, or the book, when Antiochus heard that his army had been defeated in Judea, he boarded a ship and fled to the coastal city. Wherever he came, the people rebelled and called him the fugitive. So he drowned himself in the sea. I don't know where he got that. I don't know where the fuck they got that from. I don't know where they got that shit from. He died of what I would say colon cancer, instant colon cancer. Let's get a little bit of more history. Antiochus the fourth Epiphanes, the king of Syria. He was an Edomite living in Syria because they took down Syria, captured Jerusalem in 167 BC, and desecrated the temple by offering the sacrifice of a pig on an altar to Zeus, the abomination of desolation. That shows you that Esau knows. Now, when it says the abomination of desolation, let's take that out. Just going into some history, man. Just filtering it through the scriptures, or going through the scriptures and filtering it through history, secular history. Okay, let's see the abomination of desolation. Let's do this. Abomination of desolation is a phrase from the book of Daniel describing the pagan sacrifices with which the 2nd century BCE, before the Common Era, it used to be before the Christian era, Greek king Antiochus IV replace the twice daily offering in Jewish temple, or alternative, the altar on which such offerings were made. Then as you read down, oh, here it is right here. To show you that Esau knows the scriptures too. They study the scriptures. They get the abomination that maketh desolation, which when the Lord said that, he was talking about when Titus entered into the temple. This is a different time period. Daniel 9 verse 27, Daniel 11 verse 31, Matthew 24. Well, they went off on that one. It wasn't in Matthew 24 verse 15. That was during the time of the Romans, the Vespasian and Titus. Okay, it says, when ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of in Daniel the prophet. When Daniel made that statement, it was in the 12th chapter, and it was talking about the Romans. Let me take, okay, let's go to Daniel. And I'm gonna get ready to close it. I may come back and finish this. You know what? Let me. 26 verse. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. That's our Lord, but not for himself, because he died for Israel and himself, and the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. That's the Romans. And the end thereof shall be with a flood. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, now the Christians say you're going to some Antichrist, and it ain't talking about that. This already took place. This is during the time of the apostles. He shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. This was during the time of Titus and his army. And for the overspreading of abomination, he shall make it desolate even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. That determined shall be poured upon the desolate is us, is Jerusalem. So where am I? But anyway, like I said, that's just a little history. And everything that I'm reading from First Maccabees, the first chapter, I can all back it up, filter it through secular history. Okay, let me read the 10th verse again. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surname Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, just like there is today. You got a lot of Israel, you got, like I said, I did a video on spies and agents. You got actual jakes that are in the camps, infiltrating the camps. And it's a damn shame that they can't see, yo, man, I am an Israelite. They can't see it, man. And when the Most High deals with them, he's going to deal with them harshly. He's going to look at them like they're a damn Edomite, man, a black Edomite, who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Yeah, the reason why you had much sorrow, because you're under a curse. And the curses in Deuteronomy 28 is ongoing. It's not no one time like Vocab Malone and Dr. James White. Oh, that's talking about the Assyrians. No, that's talking about the Assyrians. No, it was talking about, well, at one point, around about the 50th verse or so, that's talking about the Roman Empire during the time period of 70 AD. The last verse, you shall go into Egypt again with ships, is talking about the slave trade, the transatlantic slave trade. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forward, talking about Israelites, sellouts, that they went to the king who gave them license to do after the ordinance of the heathens. Now I was going to do a lesson on, and that'll probably be my next lesson on, when you go to the New Testament and it speaks about the Gentiles receiving salvation, and we say it's talking about the Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites. Well, you got to come back to the Maccabees. It's all throughout the Maccabees because they forced them not to circumcise their children, which is in this same chapter. This chapter right here is a major chapter. This is a major chapter. So I'm going to have to come back and do the rest of this. Okay, this is the 14th verse. You know what? Let me read a little bit more, and then I'll close it. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at the modern day gyms. The word gym is from the Greek word naked. That's why when you go to the gym, and I can tell you by experience, you're gonna see Edomites up in there. You're gonna see a lot of Jacob in there. And then you're gonna see them thoughts up in there. Them ones that work out and they got the tight, what is it still called spandex? You can see the shape, and they don't got to go to the gym. They're in tip-top shape, got the six-pack in tip-top shape, but they're going in there exercise. You know why they're doing it? So they can attract men. I remember I went to this one gym, and it was two Jake women, and they were kind of flirting with this Edomite guy. And I noticed it. I didn't say nothing. And then the next time I came there, one of the women looked dead at me and smiled, and she had she looked good, had a nice body. And I said, that ain't nothing but a thought. The same thing in the boxing gym. Back when we used to box, there was no woman in the boxing gym, man. If a boxer in the gym, girlfriend came to the gym, everybody stopped and looked like, what the hell are you doing up in here? Now you got women that come to the gym that want to learn how to box. And how do they dress? They got the fat ass with the spandex on, or the tight pants that you can see their body, and they trying to do the pads. They trying to do a three-piece. And then they'll look, if they like you, they'll look at you. They'll kind of look, and how you doing? They'll bump into you. They'll say, how do you do that exercise? Because they want you to talk to them. Ain't nothing but a whorehouse, man. Ain't nothing but a whorehouse. Anyway, it says that's why we call them thoughts. That hoe over there. And don't call them hoe because they get mad. What you mean? Why you getting mad? You are a hoe, aren't you? You was with that white boy last week. Now you want to get with me? So instead of them being butt ass naked, you can see the shape of their bodies. I show the most I said I show like Isaiah 3:16 on down. I showed discover thy secret parts. So you can see their breasts, you can see their nipples, you can see the camel toe, you can see the butt. Whereupon they built a place of exercise, the gymnos at Jerusalem. When they do the Olympics, they do the Olympics in the ancient world, they were butt ass naked, man. You had Jakes and they were all Jake in the Olympics. I can go to the Vases. Matter of fact, let me do that. And then I'm gonna close on that. Greek, let me see. Greek Olympus. How do you spell vase? think it's vases. Byzantine, Byzantine. Okay, here it is. Greek Olympic vases. Let me go to images. Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay, this is look at this. These are jakes. You can see that they're jakes. You got what looks like an Edomite woman over there. And you can see that he got his penis dangling. And you got another guy butt ass naked. Bear me for a minute. Okay, these are oh shit. These are more fighting butt ass naked, man. Butt ass naked. And you can see that they're Jake. You can see the woolly hair and the black skin, really dark brown skin. Jake made the Greek Empire great. Here's another one, which this is the long jump. If you ran track, you would know what the long jump is. And they would have weights in their hands and they would jump and they would throw the weight back to get more, get out further. So you can see the woolly hair, see no beard. This was a Jake, woolly hair, no beard. You can see the body, he's butt ass naked. He's butt ass naked. Here goes another one. He's throwing the, what do you call that? The disc, the discus. And that's a Jake. Jake, butt ass naked. Butt ass naked, man. Anyway, give you one more. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom. And what did I stop at? Okay, I stopped at 14. So let me remember that's 14. And what I'll do, most high willing, I'll bring you the precepts to prove that the reason why we were being called Gentiles, the reason why it said in Romans 11 that Paul said, I'm an apostle to the Gentiles, therefore I magnify my office. Remember the high priest Ariah used to say, yeah, now he's talking to the Edomites and the other nations. But we found out through research that no, that was wrong. No, that those are Israelites. So anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.